everybody. Welcome to the Game Junkie Show, episode 12, Gaming Through the Generations. This one is going to be pretty cool. I am joined here by Matt.
Which one?
You.
Okay, hello everybody.
Also, Methodical Matt.
Elden Ring.
Joey.
What's going on, everybody?
And Logic.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
So what we're going to do today is we are just going to randomly pick some consoles from one of many generations, and we are all going to take a little bit of time to share our single most favorite game from that console. I have a foolproof and very accurate way of doing this. Paper inside an old piece of Chinese container. So
paper
it's really going to be that simple. Are you guys ready to dive in? Let's talk about some gaming.
I'm so ready. Born ready.
Let's see what we draw first. Oh, God, this is going to be the hardest one. Son of a gun. PS4. Man, there were some bangers on this. PS4. Matt, let's start with you.
Sure, yeah. So this is definitely a really tough one because I'd say PS4 is was definitely my preferred system for a long time. It was it was the only one I had for this generation, so that's a really, really tough one. But I guess I'd have to say honestly, it's a real toss-up between Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us 2, and I think I'm going to have to give it to The Last of Us 2, just because, say what you want about the game, I know it's very divisive, but it is the single most technically impressive game that I've ever played, I think. So I would have to give it to The Last of Us 2.
Methodical, what about you?
Everyone knows my love for Red Dead Redemption 2. I could do a whole podcast on that, so I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm actually going to go with Witcher 3. Probably, I'd say the PS4 was my favorite generation of games ever, and I think that one just stands out head and shoulders. The best RPG that I've personally ever played. I just can't say enough good things about that game.
That's a good one. Joey, what about you?
I'm going to get scorched earth for this one, but that's okay. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky would be my favorite game that I played on PlayStation 4. When it was coming and everyone was like heralding it as the best game in the world, I just didn't see that coming. I just kind of anticipated what was actually going to happen, but I was like, I held the course. I was like, you know what? I still think it's really going to be for me. And it was, and that was good. It wasn't for anyone else, dear God, as we all saw, but that's all right. It was for me, and it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. That's all that matters. Logic, What about you? What's your favorite PS4 game?
Yeah, I'm probably going to get a little scorched earth here too. I think most people would be expecting to hear like the first party titles and the things directly out of Sony Studios, but for me it was Destiny 2. And I played Destiny 2 on all platforms. I played on Xbox, I played on PlayStation, I played on PC Stadia. But PlayStation 4 just kind of at random became the console where I spent the most time on that particular game. I never merged my account, so my Guardians on PlayStation 4 are the ones I'm most familiar with and kind of have the most sentimental value to me, I guess.
I love it. I love those third-party games. For me, this is hard because my bangers on PS4, I'm going to have to go with Horizon Zero Dawn. It just had so many elements that nailed it for me, and that art direction just made me feel like I was stuck in that apocalyptic world. Damn, a good one right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Let's see what else we pull. Oh my goodness. PlayStation 2. Logic, let's go down. Let's start with you.
Well, this might be the one that gets the most angst. So I am actually going to say The Bouncer. So a much maligned game and not one that's really appreciated that highly by big fans of Square. Actually kind of did a little bit of walking back through yesteryear as I thought about some of these titles, and I had completely forgotten that it was not Square Enix back at that time. It was Square Soft, I think, and this was a collaborative effort between Square and EA. And so there's pieces of it that are not quite in like the Final Fantasy mold that I think a lot of people kind of equate and connote with Square Enix. But I walked into a mall on a day where I had been hunting for the PlayStation 2 for months to no avail. This was kind of back in the day before ordering these things online was kind of the norm. And I think I had to buy a bundle from Wizards of the Coast, and I had to buy like 5 games. And I just had lost touch with what was really in the PlayStation 2 library at that point, about 3 or 4 months after launch. And the Bouncer was what I picked, and it, for whatever reason, was just a game that I stuck with and played through to the end. And this from a gamer who doesn't play a ton of titles through from beginning to end.
First
Awesome.
PS2 game I ever played as well was the Bouncer.
Okay, so what about you, Methodical? Would that be your pick, or you got something different?
I'm gonna have to go with Metal Gear Solid 2. Sorry, Joey, if you want to take that one.
That's all right.
Honestly, the material in that game still incredibly relevant here in 2021. Still technically very impressive. You can go play it right now, and it still looks good. It still plays good. For me, that game represented the jump in generations from PS1 to PS2, and that's something we don't get a ton of anymore. Like when you're going from an Xbox One X to an Xbox Series X, you're gonna see some improvements, but you're gonna go, okay, these still look like almost the same generation of games. But go from MGS1 to MGS2. I remember my mind just being absolutely blown. I believe I got a demo for it with Zone of the Enders, I think it was.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I put that demo disc in, and I could not believe what I was playing. It was just so surreal. So that's always going to be my go-to PS2 game.
Joey, what about you? He pictures, didn't he?
He did. He did. I mean, I'll
Take
reiterate.
MGS3.
MGS3 was just actually, to be honest, I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is the better game between
Yeah.
the two. Between the two, but hilariously enough, quick funny story. The reason Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite is because I would play it for a friend who loved the game but was terrible at it. So he would I'd go over to his house and I'd play it from beginning to end, and I wasn't allowed to die. I wasn't allowed to skip cutscenes. I had to act like Snake would, or like Raiden would, I suppose, and I used to laugh because I would go, dude, nobody likes this. You're the only person who likes people to watch people play video games. This is dumb. Nobody else will ever do this, and this is the dumbest thing in the world. And now here I am eating my words because watching video games is all a lot of people do. There were lots of my friend out there. I thought he was crazy, but I was wrong. That's yeah.
Awesome.
Love Metal Gear Solid 2.
How time changes it. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, actually, my background, Ratchet and Clank, I would have to give it to. I wanted to maybe say Simpsons Hit and Run because I was pretty young when I was playing a PS2, so the Simpsons Hit and Run was one I mentioned as as an honorable mention because it was almost my first Grand Theft Auto experience. I'd say it was in the cities taking cars and whatnot. So I really did love that game, but I really would have to give it to Ratchet and Clank in 2002. Really, I mean, I really love the Ratchet and Clank games, and the Ripped Apart was amazing, and it really just laid the foundation for kind of what those games are and just how fun they are. The different gadgets that you can use are just so creative, and I couldn't have thought of a better developer to take on Spider-Man just because of the tenure that they have with Ratchet and Clank, just the gadgets and whatnot. I definitely didn't at the time know that they made Spyro, but now looking back at that now, that's I think that's just awesome. They really did really pioneers of the PS2 generation. I think Insomniac. That was definitely my favorite PS2 game.
Awesome pick. PS2. God, there's a lot for that too. I'm going to go with Indigo Prophecies, or depending where you live, it might be Fahrenheit. That was for me a really groundbreaking indie because it set the stage for a completely different entire genre of gaming and a different way that we told stories with games. So I thought that was really cool, the way that Cage used that medium at the time. So that would be mine there. Y'all are in fuego. Awesome pick so far. Let's keep, this is a little nostalgic. Sega Genesis. Methodical, let's start with you.
Streets of Rage. Loved Streets of Rage, the side-scrolling beat-em-up games. By the way, play Streets of Rage 4, the newer one. It's quite good. Yeah, just so many great memories playing those games over at friends' houses, with my brothers, by myself. Just amazing games, and I think even the sequels were really quite good. So tough to pick from that era, but I'm gonna go with that one.
Joey, what about you? Sega Genesis, favorite game?
I never had one.
Oh.
Never had one. Never had one.
Did you play? Did you ever get to play games on one?
Once I played Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it was the second one in the third grade with Josh. Forget his last name. My best friend at the time, Thompson. I think.
I guess that's your
Something like
favorite
that.
then.
Shout
would
out
be
to
it.
Josh.
That would be shout out to Josh and Sonic the Hedgehog too. That's my choice for this one.
I mean, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It is good.
Logic, what about you? What's your favorite Sega Genesis title?
For me, it was Vector Man. So this was a title that, if memory serves, was released kind of in the waning months of the Sega Genesis generation before the step up to the Saturn. And so it was one of the last games developers had really learned how to extract the most that they possibly could out of that hardware set. I also had a 32X on my Sega Genesis, so my honorable mention in this category is Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, because there were only like 3 titles that you could play the 32X on. But yeah, Vector Man was just kind of it was a side-scrolling 2D platformery kind of game with some combat mechanics in it, in a era that was kind of characterized by like Contra games, but it kind of stood out in some of the unique mechanics that it provided. So again, Genesis was very near and dear to my heart, so that game kind of was a little sentimental pick.
Awesome. Matt, what about you?
Also a sentimental pick. I don't remember much of the Sega Genesis, but it was the very first console that I ever played. And what I remember most vividly was probably the very first game I played was The Lion King. So I'm going to have to give it to The Lion King. And I also, an honorable mention to Aladdin, but I'm going to have to give it to The Lion King.
That Aladdin game actually wasn't that bad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Sega Genesis, probably Sonic and Knuckles. Like that was 2-player gaming was more common back then, I feel like, and that was like kind of what you did after school is you spent all weekend, sharing the console and it's just the replay value was so high on those games. That would be my pick. All right, what else do we have in here? Okay, the Nintendo Wii. The Nintendo Wii. Joey, let's start with you.
All right. So my weird thing I don't actually talk about that much. I'm weirdly into Mario Party. Like I've played every single one through 10, the handheld ones, Super Mario Party, all of them. And so Mario Party 8 was I didn't play a ton of Wii games, but Mario Party 8 was my favorite game. And specifically, I remember everyone made fun of me because I was single at the time, and we would play with some friends who were couples. And there's this one mini game where you have to take the Wiimote and treat it like it's a can of pop, and you have to shake it, right? So you grab the Wiimote, you do this as hard as you can, and whoever does that the best wins, I guess. And I was untouchable, and everyone just like called me loveless and stuff. It was both hurtful and hilarious at the same time. So yeah, Mario Party 8 for me.
I was wondering if you didn't make a joke about if your friends didn't make fun of you then for it, I was gonna maybe think about.
Oh yeah, no, you're free to make fun of me now too. That's okay.
I think that's fun. Logic, what about you? What is your favorite Wii title?
Yeah, so maybe this one isn't quite as much a sentimental pick. So the Wii for me became that console that just became the blue light flashing over there in the corner in the living room that I never played after about the first year. So, and I think about 18 months into it, I just got rid of it because I wasn't using it. So my pick is actually a launch title because I didn't play too much more on the Wii beyond that. Red Steel. So not the best game in the world, but in my opinion, kind of. One of the ones that best represented what I wanted out of the Wii. I have this weird relationship with Nintendo. No offense to anybody, I see you got the wallpaper there, but like I use my Switch and my Nintendo platforms, and I don't play Nintendo mascot kind of games. I look for those third-party titles that are kind of more in my wheelhouse. And that's what Red Steel was. It was a first-person shooter game with heavy swordplay mechanics, and I really loved that. It was also an Asian story, steeped in that history and culture, and that's kind of another thing that is a thing that I like and is a stick of mine. So, yep, Red Steel.
It's a good one. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, this is another one where I didn't play it a ton. I actually didn't not have a Wii, but my cousin had one, so I remember playing a lot at their house. Several cousins, their siblings. But I would say probably Super Mario Galaxy. I had a lot of fun with that. I remember they had that, and it was a real fun game. I didn't play it too much or that often, but I really can see that how the foundation was laid for kind of where Mario goes in the future, with Odyssey and whatnot. And really, really good game. I had a lot of fun with that. The couple of times that I did play it. So I think that one.
Methodical?
I actually hated the Wii. Um, so I hate motion controls. You know what though? I had one. I was kind of in the same spot as Logic. I ended up selling it. But some quality games on there. Mario Galaxy, as Matt said, Galaxy 2, I've heard is an incredibly good game. My biggest memory of the Wii is I was working at basically Canada's version of Radio Shack called The Source, and getting yelled at on a weekly basis by these moms who were trying to get their hands on a Wii. And good luck with that. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. So thank you, Nintendo.
It is interesting. The Wii is all Nintendo consoles have sold, but the Wii was such a massive seller.
It was
And
crazy.
It
I
was
just
it was
feel
crazy.
I feel like most people don't play the Wii like they play their other Nintendo consoles, even though everybody freaking has one, right? It's like the Spice Girls. We all bought the album, but we didn't really listen to it. Like,
Yeah, that's
Well,
good.
it was a weird thing. If we can diverge just for a second,
yes,
like
of
the
course.
motion controls, and I mean, I'm with Matt. Like I hate motion controls. I don't think that the vast majority of the gaming market wants them. I was working on a meme and a joke the other day about like that one developer who's always in like the pre-design meeting who brings up, oh, we should implement design, motion controls, and all the other devs go groan and tell him, nobody wants that. But the interesting story, and for a few of these consoles, I probably have some. I'm sure we all do have interesting, like how did you get it kind of stories. And I'm not like I said, not a big Nintendo player. Didn't have an SNES, but I stood in line for the Wii. I showed up the morning on launch day at Toys R Us, and it was freezing cold. And my buddy and I, we got out of our cars. People started showing up and coordinated this whole thing of, hey, we don't want anybody to wait outside in the cold. We're just gonna take everybody's name down on a list, and does everybody agree that that's how we're gonna line up? And everybody agreed to that. It was a very warm, welcoming event for somebody who hadn't spent a lot of time hanging around Nintendo people, air quotes. And we all lined up, and I mean, as we got in line, the guy came out from Toys R Us a little closer to opening time, and we knew that there weren't enough consoles for everyone, and people still stood in line. The people who knew that they weren't going to get one kind of didn't stay in line as tightly, and we were just kind of going up and down the line, like talking to people and reminiscing about Nintendo, and have people come by and say, "Hey, does anybody want? We're going to make a run to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever and get hot chocolate. Does anybody?" So it was a awesome, endearing experience for a console that I kept for all of about 18 months. So, but I loved the obtainment adventure that went along with it.
That is pretty interesting for such a short-lived console too. For me, I feel so vanilla, but I don't care. I loved Wii Sports. You really
Yeah.
haven't lived until you've almost completely fractured a friendship over like Wii Golf or Wii Bowling. Like the competitiveness when you nearly break a television and you're drinking and you're like really, 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 you just have to kick their ass at some stupid, ridiculous like Wii tennis. I don't know why. Those were just some of the best memories, like insane. We would get a little bit aggressive
Mhm.
about that game. Great memories, though. All right, let's see what else we have here. The Xbox One. Xbox One. Joey, I gotta let you go first because you love the Xbox so much. He's so excited.
I probably don't even need to actually say it. I am, but what most people might assume it's actually not. It's not a Halo game. As much as I love Halo as a series, individually, I don't know if they win on any system for me, except for maybe Halo 1 and 2 on the original. On Xbox One, it would be Sea of Thieves, hands down, hands down. Sea of Thieves is the best game I have played in years. It's my second favorite game of all time. And what I tell everyone, I can't promise that anyone will ever like it because it's pretty unique. But I can promise you that nobody's played anything like it. It's really, really unique in its approach. It has forced PvP, which is what turns off pretty much anyone who doesn't play it. It's because of the forced PvP. That's what they don't like. But if you can get by that and learn how to deal with it, it just has some emergent moments and things that you can have happen with your friends that I've just never had happen in anything else under any circumstances. And it's really, really, really incredible. It's really great.
I know you've
So
told me a
Joey,
couple times. I've seen you talk about it on Twitter, and then I've seen people come back and tell you that they're into it. So I've actually been seeing you sell people on it and getting people into it
I do
now.
Rare's work. I do their bidding. Yeah, for sure.
so,
Logic, what
so
about
there,
you? What's yours?
well, I want to ask Joey a question real quick. So there are some of these games that are typified by developer and publisher resilience, and some other people. I talk about kind of these. And Joey, you mentioned one of your other picks before was one of these games, No Man's Sky from Hello Games.
Mhm.
These games where with some companies, they just keep throwing money at it until it's
Yeah.
successful. So we talk about the
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Sieges and the way Ubisoft can stick with something and turn something around that other publishers and devs can't.
Mhm.
We've seen DICE and even in EA come back to Battlefront 2, which was a kind of a turd at a launch because of all the microtransactions and the lack of content. Are those types of perseverance kind of games from the publisher and developer a thing that is a hook for you?
That seems to be a coincidence, but I thought about that. I've noticed that too. I started to wonder if I should maybe check out like Rainbow. Basically, any success story, I'm wondering if I should go and buy it. Actually, I tried Fallout 76 and had a ton of fun. I did. So there really might be something to it. I'm not sure. No Man's Sky I played right at the moment of impact, and boy was that a ride on Twitter.com. But the Sea of Thieves I actually only started playing once the general opinion I had turned around on that one. So I didn't play the initial version. Knowing what it would have been like, I can see how it would have been heralded as a bit boring and empty. But it's doing well now. That's for sure. That's for sure. But yeah, there's a theory there for sure.
That's a good theory, Logic. That was actually an awesome question to ask. That slipped right by me. That was a damn good catch.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. So to answer your question, Crystal, so I have not led on because I haven't been talking too much about my honorable mentions and a lot of these picks, but I am a huge simulation fan, so flight sims and racing games and driving sims. And so my home for that on console is Xbox One. It is kind of the first-person shooter racing console, the bro console, if you want to call it that. But and I was not a huge fan of open world racing games. I was very peeved with Burnout Paradise and the incredibly sadistic hoop jumping you had to go through to get into multiplayer with somebody in Burnout Paradise. But my favorite games on Xbox One were the whole Forza Horizon franchise and Forza Motorsport. Because Forza Horizon 2, I think, actually came out on the 360. Definitely Forza Horizon, the first one did, and I didn't discover those games during the 360 era, even though that's one of my top two favorite consoles of all time. But I discovered those series on Xbox One. Again, initially came into it kind of turned off about the whole notion of open world racing, but really fell in love with the franchise. And actually, despite the success of Forza Horizon 4, and I do love the dynamic weather, but I actually prefer the setting in the Australian outback of Forza Horizon 3 to the streets and backcountry of London in 4. So yeah, that's my pick.
Would you pick? So you're picking 3 as the best of the franchise potentially?
Yeah, I'm cheating. This is not an unusual thing for me to just change the conditions of the test. So.
There's no rules. There's no wrong answers. There's no rules.
Yeah, but yeah, just glom all those things together, and Turn 10 and Playground are kind of my picks. Anything that they did on the Xbox One era.
Beautiful games, Matt.
This one's another tough one for me. I never had an Xbox One, so I think I have played a little bit of the Master Chief Collection, and I think that's a very impressive thing for them to have on a console. Just what a game, what a character to be able to play as. And I don't want to. That's I guess a little bit of foreshadowing when we get to the Xbox 360. But for the Xbox One, I think what I really want to do though is give it to third parties that I experienced on a PS4 that I know would be the same experience on an Xbox. So I think I'd have to give it to Rockstar and say Red Dead Redemption 2 finally, just because what a game. I mean, it's the game that we wanted Cyberpunk to be. The living world, immersion, talking to any NPC, seeing them go on a routine, not just be just there, just standing, walking around, living a life. And the player choice that they give you in that game is astounding. And and Red Dead Redemption 1 to date was up into 2018 was one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely adore Red Dead Redemption 1. And then Red Dead Redemption 2, I just never expected it to just completely blow it out of the water. I wanted to keep my hype in check. I didn't want to let myself go overboard, and when I finally did play it, really, it was really just fantastic. And I do want to actually throw in. Lastly, here, I definitely I'm not like a ride or die on it though. There are things that I think could be that I didn't love about it, like for instance, the bounty hunting system, way better in Red Dead 1. I mean, it's awesome in Red Dead 2, awesome that there's a bit more of a narrative, but just the amount of replayability that I got out of that bounty hunting system, like you could use it to reduce your bounty. I guess, like, when the law was after you, you could use it to gain more honor. You could do it just to get cash, or just if you had nothing to do. And so that was always really great. I wish that they had like something for like John to do at I guess spoilers for Red Dead, but just it'd be awesome if at the very end of it they introduced that way of doing bounty hunting, of like just maybe not something Arthur could do, but something for John to do in the epilogue. I think that would have gotten more replayability out of at least the epilogue for me, because I ended up but I ended up going back into chapter 2 and cutting it off like right before a very pivotal moment in chapter 2, and just like kind of doing as much as I could, and actually ended up doing a lot. I ended up unlocking the bolt action rifle, so that was awesome in chapter 2. So that was awesome. Yeah, Red Dead 2 all the way.
Methodical.
I was gonna go with the Master Chief Collection because I'm a huge Halo guy, and you brought it up already, Matt. That's great. I love those games. But I'm gonna go. It's a third party, but I'm going with Doom 2016. What a game! So Doom. I first got Doom on a floppy disk back in the day, the shareware floppy disks. Then I had it on Super Nintendo. I had it on every console, and then getting to see that franchise resurrected the way it was, taking what made Doom so special and turning it up to 11 with these amazing graphics, the constantly moving forward gameplay, the visceral attacks, the soundtrack. Mick Gordon just killed it.
Yeah.
A game that I have probably, I don't replay a ton of games. I think I've gone through that 7 or 8 times on 2 different consoles. It's just, in my opinion, the perfect game.
Wow. I will admit, Xbox One wasn't a console I played much. The fire for me was PS4, and there weren't there hasn't been any Xbox exclusives in a long time that I was hooked to. I fell out of Gears of War a while ago. I'm sorry, Methodical, I was never really into Halo. But I really, really, really loved the game A Way Out. I thought it was really clever. I thought what they did there in that environment was really cool. So that's one I would pick on the Xbox. I just thought that was a really cool system, and I hope they continue to make games like that. And It Takes Two, because they're really dope. Okay, what do we have here? The Nintendo Switch. So, Logic, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could tell the whatever behind my eyes. I don't know if it's sarcasm, cynicism, or if I was actually happy about it. Matt, you for a split second, you almost made me switch this pick to Doom 2016, because I played Doom 2016 on the PlayStation 4, but I bought it on the Switch. I buy things on the Switch that are a lot of times just about the ability to take that title on the go, because when I'm here and I have all this stuff, like I play like my premium games and the things that I can't play when I'm away, but like I put things on the Switch that I'm like, okay, now I don't have all this stuff, what I want to play, but I didn't. Despite me slagging Nintendo about first party titles and mascot games, my pick for this is actually Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is a franchise that lives on Nintendo platforms, and I have always been enamored by, because I'm a big tactical guy. Like, I like strategy games and RTSs, and this is an RPG, but it hews so close with all of that tactically oriented content. I really didn't expect to spend as much time as I did with Fire Emblem. And admittedly, I haven't played all the way through the game, but man, like, I just spent hours in front of the TV, like, grooming my armies and like picking how I was going to train my commanders, and I got much deeper into this thing, which obviously has a Hogwarts like hook to it, than I ever expected to. And so yeah, that's my pick, Fire Emblem Three Houses.
It's a good one, Matt.
I'm so glad you picked me now, because someone's going to say this, I guarantee it. But Breath of the Wild. it's that is such an impressive game. I mean, I always loved the Zelda games. I thought they were always great. I never played a ton of them, and so I would say Breath of the Wild was like the first one that I actually really sat down and really got to really enjoy. And I mean, it reinvents the wheel completely, right? I mean, it's unlike any Zelda game that ever came before it, and the fact that you can go right to Ganon right from the beginning, right when you get off of the prologue area, the fact that that they put a motorcycle in the DLC like that. Like I literally just unlocked that motorcycle. We were talking about that over the in our group chat. Like I literally this weekend I sat down and finally beat that DLC, and I literally bought that DLC in probably 2018 on a trip to New Hampshire with my wife. I was literally playing it in the car, and I just beat it. It was like literally it's been years, and I guess it was just because I put it in the backlog. But really, really enjoyed that game. Really loved that game. Breath of the Wild is really just such a good game, and just you still find new stuff in that game, like just impressive. Like I saw a video of someone like shooting an arrow like so super far. They like those one of those ancient robot mech things. Like they literally launched it into the sky, and then like as it was falling, they shot it with an arrow, and it was like so wicked far away. I couldn't believe the draw distance. So, and I actually really liked what Logic just said about like using the Switch as like what games do you kind of want on the go. I was literally bringing my Switch to work with me because I wanted to play that, and so I was playing it on lunch breaks. I'd be playing Breath of the Wild because I just loved it that much. It really, I'm sure that more people in this would have said that or have played it, but I couldn't recommend Breath of the Wild more. The Switch is basically the Breath of the Wild machine. So.
That's fair enough. Methodical.
I Breath of the Wild obviously is amazing and one of my favorite games. I'm gonna also go give a shout out to Mario Odyssey. I had so much fun with that game. It was the first game that I got. I got that with Smash Brothers, which is also fantastic. But Mario Odyssey, from beginning to end, it was just like a feeling of joy. It was just their happiness. The music is fantastic. The levels are fantastic. The enemies, when the levels turn into 2D levels, the music goes back to the retro music. I just had a smile on my face the whole time. That song in New Donk City is so good. It's just from beginning to end, one of those few games where I had a smile on my face the whole time, which is I'm a cynical old man now, so that's hard to do.
Joey, what about you?
For me, it's funny. I was gonna use Breath of the Wild, but then I remember I played it on Wii U. I didn't play it on Switch.
Oh,
So it's excluded anyway. But no, my choice is still pretty easy. For me, it would actually be Let's Go Pikachu would be my choice of all things. I not a huge Pokemon guy, but I played Blue on a Game Boy Color back in the day, of course, and I loved it very, very much, and I still love it. And one of the things about me is nostalgia drives me really, really far when it comes to games. I can get over jank, I can get over age, I can get over bad graphics easily. And so I've basically just been playing Blue for an eternity. I know like 1 to 151 really, really well, and I just ignore everything else after it. So when Let's Go Pikachu came out, that was a really, really awesome and fun way for me to go back through all that stuff again. It was pretty much 1 to 1 almost, and it was great. It was really, really charming in that way. And so it was, and it gave me a lot of things to collect and boxes to check off, and I love stuff like that too. So yeah, Let's Go Pikachu specifically, not Eevee, Pikachu.
Oh, not Eevee. My wife's gonna pick a bone with you. She loves Eevee. She plays all those Pokemon games.
I'm
The
sorry.
Nintendo systems are mostly hers. I play them, but like that's her bread and butter is that, and I like my other consoles. But she loves Eevee. Guys, Nintendo Switch calculator. That's nobody's favorite game.
We missed the Gotti. We missed the Gotti.
I am 100% with Logic here. The sole purpose for me of the Switch is game nights that aren't at my house. It is a fantastic system. We have like a little package that we put it in, a little Animal Crossing setup, and we put it in and we go. And I love multiplayer games on the Switch because I get to play with my friends. So I'm probably going to go with Smash Brothers Ultimate just because it's such a good party game. And like, you want to like hurt your friends after a while after the real competition there. So I think for me, that's probably going to be one of my favorites there.
We need to get your wife to let you buy an Xbox, Crystal.
Well, we're gonna.
There's a Twitter campaign.
Well, she's got to have surgery in her health, and then we got some I just don't get me started. Tangent. No, I won't. I won't go offline. Offline. I'll tell you guys because I don't want. I have friends that watch this, and I don't want to put somebody on blast like that. But we'll offline that. But I will have the Series S will be mine within the next year. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Okay, next system. The SNES, the Super Nintendo. Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, so this one would be another one that I didn't actually own. I played Donkey Kong Country though once at a friend, and then when I saw that it was also on Game Boy, I bought it and loved it. So I would probably say Donkey Kong Country. And I actually I discovered Donkey Kong before really understanding what Mario was. So that's when I look back at the very first. Well, actually, that's our Donkey Kong game, isn't it? When I look back at the first Donkey Kong, the fact that he started as a villain, it's very shocking. Very shocking. What a betrayal.
Great game, though. Really fun
Great
game.
games.
Methodical?
Donkey Kong Country 2 has the best soundtrack I've ever heard.
The best.
Go put on, like, honestly, you want to hear great game music? Donkey Kong Country 2 soundtrack. It even when it came to the Switch Online, the SNES stuff, I was so excited when they added Donkey Kong Country 2. Not only is it still a great game, it's challenging, but the art direction is fantastic. The music is fantastic. The collectibles are great. It's just top to bottom, amazing game, and you can play it with a friend. So,
yeah, that's a good choice. Joey?
That is, I appreciate all the Donkey Kong Country love. For the record, as much as I love Mario, I put the Donkey Kong Country trilogy above the Mario trilogy. I love them very much. Having said that, though, believe it or not, my answer would go to Yoshi's Island or Super Mario World 2, whatever you want to call it. Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island.
yeah,
It's Yoshi's Island. It's the art direction and the departure, the way from other Mario games and the way that they had been, and the mechanics that were present in that game, and how rigid it was. And it was like 3 levels in a boss, 3 levels in a boss, next world, 3 levels in a boss, 3 levels in a boss, next world, 6 worlds, you're done. And I love it very much. The icing on the cake there is that pretty much most days my son will play some of those Switch games Super Nintendo games on Switch Online, and he is hard into Yoshi's Island. Like he pretends he's playing Yoshi's Island when he's not actually playing Yoshi's Island, and so it's also been a thing like for him and I to bond over and talk about, and he talks to me about it because he knows exactly. If he talks about some level abstractly, I know what level he's talking about, and so it's special. It was special to me as a kid, and it's special to my kid as a kid. So there's lots of flavor there with Yoshi's Island. Yeah,
that's pretty special to have that be something that was really big with you, and then your kid ends up picking. I think that's pretty dope.
It's been cool. It's good.
Logic, what about you? What's your favorite Super Nintendo title?
So I did not own a Super Nintendo. This was back before I was a multi-platform, multi-console gamer. So back in days when I picked sides, and I picked Sega. It was the only I could only afford to buy one console at that time. So the closest thing I can get to it, and I know I didn't play this game because this game would have come out at a time when I couldn't play consoles because of where I was. But when I had my Master System and my brother had his NES, what I liked was Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So effectively, I'll make my pick Super Punch Out for the Super NES.
yes.
Oh,
yeah, that game is fantastic on every system.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good one. God, the Super Nintendo was banging, y'all. There were so many good games. I mean, I played the shit out of that. But I loved Super Mario World. Was just something special. Like I grew up playing kind of the standard Marios and the Duck Hunts and the old school Zeldas, and I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of a fresh, kind of a unique. Oh, my cat's just completely destroyed something. Did you hear all that in the background?
I did.
That would be kittens. Fantastic. assholes. So
They are.
Super Mario World for me, I don't know, it was just so much fun, and I constantly
Mhm.
wanted to replay it, and I feel like it was adding a lot of new flavors to what we were going to see moving forward in platforming. You guys are dicks. Man, I don't even want to go back there. It's going to be so bad. I'm pretty sure things are broken. So, all right. Oh, this was a good damn system. Xbox 360.
No, I can't pick.
Oh, that's a good system. Methodical, let's start with you.
Okay. Oh man, this is tied with PS4 for my favorite console generation ever. I love the 360. Okay, I'm gonna pick two here. So on a personal level, emotional level, it's gonna be Left 4 Dead. Um, the multiplayer game. So funny story. I actually met one of my best friends in that game randomly. We got matched up together in a lobby. And shout out to John if he hears this, because I told him to listen to it. We got put on a team together, started chatting, and he's like, "Oh, do you guys want to party up again?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And 12 years later, we're still great friends. We play Call of Duty together almost every single day. He came to visit me here in Canada. Just a great dude.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that's one I'll cherish forever. And then I'm gonna pick two. Be a little selfish here. I gotta pick Skyrim. Skyrim, to this day, I still play that game. And when that came out, I've said this before. I don't think I'll ever feel something about the game the way I felt playing Skyrim for the first time. There
That-
was I wish I could bottle that and feel it again. Like there was just something so amazing about going out into that world and experiencing it, and I don't think I've ever had that again with a game. It was just so amazing, and stands the test of time to this day. And you got all the crazy
Absolutely.
mods. Yeah, so
Maybe
So
you'll get
those
that
are my-
again. Maybe there's a future title coming out.
Could be
Maybe you'll get that again,
Elder Scrolls 6. Come on,
or another one that is
Inten- in-
space.
yeah, Starfield. We'll
I
see.
mean, we don't know, so it could be. We don't know.
You never know.
You never know. That's why I got to secure that S. My wife is like, you don't need to. And I'm like, actually, no, we do need to, because it's called acquisitions, baby. And I'm not missing out on shit.
Skyrim in space is all she needs to hear.
Space Skyrim.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like, it's simple. Joey, what about you?
For me, so it's funny. I'm actually going to clock it back just one more iteration. Mine would be Oblivion. The Elder Scrolls 4
Ooh.
Oblivion. Now, for the record, I actually think Skyrim's the better game. For the record, it is. I think it's the better put together game. But I remember when I first booted it up. I love open world stuff. I love big open worlds. I'm one of these people not feeling open world fatigue. No Man's Sky is my favorite game. It's pretty much infinite open space. So I love that kind of stuff. And back in the day, worlds weren't as big. And I remember the intro plays the first time, and Sir Patrick Stewart versus Uriel Septim is doing the monologue at the intro. And he hits that particular point in it where it fades to the world, and you can see Imperial City, and everything is in the background. And he goes, this is the 27th of last seed, year of Akatosh, 433. These are the last days of the third era and the final hours of my life. And then, and it was magic. It was magic. It was so good. And to this day, I can go on YouTube and watch that and get goosebumps. Even still, it hasn't aged perfectly, but it still holds a really, really special place. Even if I think Skyrim's a better game. So yes, Oblivion. Oblivion's my choice.
I'm just thrilled you did that little pantomime there. I think that was totally worth it. I enjoyed that greatly.
Well, thank
Bob,
you. Thank you.
What about you? What's your favorite 360 title? Yeah, it's your turn, Logic. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you called on. So I'm going to go back to what Methodical mentioned, just with him finding the friend that he found through playing on the Xbox 360. So this is one of my top two favorite consoles of all time, as I mentioned before. through a history of the entirety of console gaming that I've, fortunately or unfortunately, based on my age, had the opportunity to experience. Um, but and I want to say I'm a big purveyor claimer of the theory and concept of what the Xbox 360 did and Xbox Live did for the prominence of online gaming on consoles at the time. That is back when online gaming on consoles was good. I was willing to go online and be in party chat. You had control of your lobbies, so you could boot people who were unruly. And I draw the line in the timeline with Modern Warfare 2 when all of that started to fall apart. So from the launch of the 360 up until that point, it was literally a golden age of online gaming and co-op that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we've never seen again. Unfortunately, and may never see again. And one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of the Forza series is I don't have friends that I made that are still, on Xbox Live that I'm still in touch with for 12 years, but I get a kick out of seeing the Drivatars and seeing all those people who are still on my friends list, even though we don't talk normally. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do with Forza Horizon 5 to see if Drivatars go away, which will be a great misfortune. So my honorable mention pick, based on in a similar vein to what Methodical talked about, was Project Gotham Racing 3, because we would get online and great Scott, man, we would play for 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes to 4 o'clock in the morning with just being in a lobby, being with great people, being able to get rid of people who weren't in your same ethos. But my actual pick is kind of based on those same dynamics, and it's probably not a very popular game, and it's actually a game from Software. Despite the fact that I don't like a lot of other From Software games, it was Chromehounds. And so this is a game that came out in the summer. At the time, a lot of my Xbox Live friends were late high schoolers or in college, and so they were out for the summer. And I literally started going to work at like 6 o'clock in the morning so I could get home early and meet my Chromehound squad. And so we could squad up and like groom all of our mechs and like go and do our battles. I love the persistent campaign and the way the battle line shifted between the 3 countries. We would get together and decide what country we were going to join up with as it went from season to season. This was back before like season passes was a really big thing. And it wasn't monetized, but there was a war that lasted from a definitive start to a finite end, and it had a dynamic on the overall map. And so it was just a wonderful time and experience, space and time. I want to say Gears of War came out later that year, and I love my Xbox Live friends, but they were very very categorical and migrated very quickly to new games as they came out. But there was this momentary freeze in time when Chromehounds came out that summer, and I probably logged like hundreds of hours in that game. So that is my Xbox 360 pick.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with everybody. Xbox 360 is a very tough one. I think probably as tough as the PS4. And the PS4 one, just to minorly go back to that for a moment. I mean, I said The Last of Us 2 because I went my most impressed by game. Really, I mean, it's like I could have said so many others. Like, I mean, the Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ghost of Tsushima, so many great games on there. But for Xbox 360, I have to give it to Halo 3. Because of the amount of time I spent online with that game, and just like everyone said here, just like the friendships he made playing it. I was in I think I was a freshman in high school when Halo 3 came out, so that's when I was playing it. But I had a friend who I would play all night with on Xbox Live, and Halo 3 was the very first game that I played online. When I had Halo 3, and then months later I got an Xbox Live subscription. So that was the first game that I experienced online multiplayer with, and really, really just great. I mean, I remember listening to Kanye West, like his first 3 like good albums, like as playing with Halo 3, and I literally can't hear the song All Falls Down without thinking of Halo 3 maps, because it's like I would listen to that playing that game with my friend. So really loved that game. But then there's so many. I mean, I didn't like Red Dead 1. I mean, I played Red Dead Redemption 1 for the first time on 360. So it's like that one, Assassin's Creed 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Mass Effect 1 and 2, even 3, I mean, GTA 4, just so many fantastic games. What a generation. And I got the Red Ring of Death 3 times. I mean, I was so sad. Like I was so jaded with that I switched to PS3 and I've never looked back. But yeah, 4-0 for a fallen homie on that one. Really, honestly, what a great console.
If I could jump on that, I got it 4 times, I think.
Oh,
Maybe technically 5. And despite as much as I love that era and that console, it's one of my favorite too. I actually was off of the Xbox platform from 2010 until the launch of the Xbox One. After that 4th or 5th Red Ring of Death, I took the thing I got back from Microsoft, took it to GameStop, traded it in, and like Slice said, like I went PlayStation 3 for the remaining 4 years of that generation. But PlayStation console at the time didn't come packed in with a headset. 99% of the time you went online, nobody was on comms. PlayStation let people do whatever the heck there was they wanted to do from a developer and publisher standpoint as far as online implementation. It wasn't as regimented and structured as Xbox was. And so, in my opinion, the PlayStation Network didn't thrive. There was the hack of 2011. So it was a thing. But I lived on that console for the 4 years without the Xbox. But still, the Xbox is the one that rings those sentiments for me.
That's true. And I played more PS3. My preference was PlayStation. I kind of jumped mostly from Nintendo into that, and I never really got as used to the Xbox controls. Ironically enough, I broke 3 PlayStation 3s, completely fried the motherboard out in the hard drive 3 times. Never had an issue with the 360, but damn it, 3 times lost all my hard drive on that PS3. It wasn't until I want to say mid to late portion of those generations. I'd never been into shooter games until around then, and it was actually Rainbow Six Vegas 2 that really got me in. What a fucking awesome game. I would do anything to have a game like that again. And Gears of War 2. That's my pick. That bitch had me so addicted. What a good game. Those 2 games right there. I had Six Vegas 2 for 3, and then Gears of War 2 just turned me on and got me. That's what got me kind of getting into the Call of Duties. And for a period of time, I was into shooters, and that generation really got me into that genre. I've since fallen off the bandwagon, but you can't win them all. So as we kind of close down and close out, do you guys want to, maybe, of all the games we talked about, do you want to try to pick a favorite among them, or what do you want to talk about as we bring it to close? What do you think would be exciting that we would talk about?
I think that's a great idea. Oh yeah, go ahead, Bob.
One thing I was going to throw out, if we have time, is are there any consoles that we didn't cover that, like, I know I have one that I had hoped would
Then
make
let's
the
do it.
list.
Bring it up. Say it. Throw out a console.
Dreamcast.
yes.
So that was I've talked about the Xbox 360 was one of my 2. The second one is Dreamcast. Short-lived though it was, for me, I had actually shifted to PC. I'd started building my own PCs. I had my PlayStation 1, but I was on this vector where I was like, I'm not going back to console gaming. It's going to be PC from now on. But my neighbor in the apartment complex I lived in brought home a Dreamcast, and I used to go over to his house and play Soul Calibur all the time. I was in grad school at the time, so it was like my study break game. And that would actually be my favorite game on the Dreamcast. There are lots of games that I loved on that system, but Soul Calibur was that. Did anybody else have any other consoles that were near and dear to their hearts?
I don't know that I've ever played a game on Dreamcast. I think that's the one console I've never owned. Come to think of it, I don't think I knew anybody that owned one. I don't actually think I've played a game on it.
I think that was the problem.
I had one.
I don't think I had one. I'm trying to think of what I had. I'm trying to think of the time frame in which that came out. And I'm having a hard time remembering the year.
1999?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was
So then I
99.
was playing PS1 for sure. And I had an N64 still. I think I just...
Yeah, it was 1999 because they beat the PlayStation 2 to market by a few months. And then rest
Yeah. I just went from PS1 to PS2 and then kind of hung on to the N64 for a while.
Yeah.
And I know I skipped that portion of Nintendo entirely. I don't think I went back to Nintendo till the Wii.
Its other unfortunate problem was that piracy on it was so easy. It took nothing to just burn a game, put in a boot disk, and play the burnt game. Like when my dad got me my Dreamcast, and he just gave me a CD wallet and was like, there's basically the library. And I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. And yeah, Yeah, it was like every game.
Oh my
I got to
God.
bring this one other thing up. I hate to do this, but this is just such a poignant memory. So the other thing that was so huge on the Dreamcast was not Dreamcast specific, but was NFL 2K.
Oh,
And this was the game that allowed you to play co-op. And so I had two really close buddies at the time. They would come over to my place. I would go over to one other guy's house that had it, and we would sit on the couch and we would play like the Minnesota Vikings, and one of us would be the quarterback, and the other, one would be the wide receiver, and one would be the tight end, and that was just an immaculate experience that again I feel like has never been replicated, in the remainder of gaming. So just that being on that console was just an incredible experience because it had so much to do, kind of as Methodical mentioned before, with like friendships and the last waning years of really true couch co-op in a game style that historically and genre that historically had never afforded that kind of
yeah,
gameplay model.
that is a good point. I played a lot more sports games back then, but like you said, couch co-op is something I really miss. It's harder to
Yeah.
find local multiplayer games, but the sports environment of multiplayer was just fantastic. Like that I really, really, really miss like all those heavy local two-player games, specifically the sports games. I mean, I could have played Madden and NBA 2K and for oh my God, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours with the same person, just chilling and eating potato chips and drinking Mountain Dew.
The staple diet.
Yeah, for real. Well, when you're a teen, like you eat all that shit, and now it's like,
Oh yeah, teen. Yeah, I've cut that out for sure.
oh yeah. Is there any other console that you guys want to bring up before we?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
I want to talk about the original Xbox. Um, Big honking controller that you could, if you drop it, it'll go right through your floor. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Still have mine, the Duke. So at the time, I couldn't really afford PC gaming. It was something that just seemed, and I was younger too. So my brother had a PC. He was really into WoW and stuff like that. But he had a PC, and I would go to his house and play. When the Xbox came out, it started getting these amazing PC ports. So you had Doom 3 come out on it. You had Half-Life 2 come out on it. Plus you had Halo, Halo 2, Splinter Cell, just so many amazing games. And playing Halo co-op for the first time with a friend and beating the entire campaign was just something I'll never forget. And those multiplayer sounds, like the beeps and the music and the Halo lobbies and that huge controller, just so many great memories with it. So I still have my original Xbox here, and I don't
They're
think I'll ever get
indestructible.
rid of it. It still works great.
Yeah.
I still fire it up every now and then. It's just
Indestructible.
it's an amazing console, and that massive controller is just so absurd.
That's actually the only Halo I did. I did like that first Halo on Xbox. That was
Yeah.
fun as shit. It's but the couch co-op, man.
Yeah.
That's a dying thing. Is the couch
is.
co-op experience? It was.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was only Halo 1 for me, but that first one was loads of. I just couldn't. I couldn't get enough.
And when Halo 5 dropped, couch
343
co-op,
got roasted.
oh,
Roasted.
that was so disappointing. That was like my go-to co-op game, and they dropped it. So hopefully we see Infinite with some good co-op
I
features.
think so. I'm hoping.
Yeah, hope so.
Anything else? What about the PS3? See, that was a tough. That was a tough one. I liked that generation, but PS3 was a tough one for Sony. So was there any games for you guys that you said that really actually stood out for me on the PS3?
I loved Resistance Fall of Man. I know not everybody did, but I thought Resistance was amazing. It was actually even amazing. I think what impressed me most is I was like, it didn't do anything that blew my mind. It just did everything I expected it to perfectly. It was more of a perfection than an innovation, I found, and yeah, for me, just for me personally, anyway, I really really liked it. I played the second one but never finished it, and I meant to because I was actually enjoying it more than the first. We just had a break and enter and lost all our stuff. So
Wow.
bye Resistance 2.
That
That
sucks.
stinks. Yeah, I'll definitely throw out some PS3 ones. The Uncharted trilogy, really. like modern day Indiana Jones. Like what more do you need? He was so good. I
So good.
had a 360 when Uncharted 1 and 2 came out, and Uncharted 1 and 2 were the first Let's Plays I ever watched on YouTube. I watched the entire playthrough of the game, like not just cutscenes. It's like an entire playthrough of those two games. So I would give it to Uncharted 2, but also end of the console generation, GTA 5 and The Last of Us. Both of those came to the PS4, but and Skyrim as well. Games that lived on to the into that next console generation, but started on the previous one. And to maybe bring out a last console that we didn't talk about, aside from PS3, is GameCube. I want to give a huge shout out to the first Animal Crossing. I love that game. I spent so much time with the first Animal Crossing, and I love the new one. The new one's great. I really do love it. But that new one, I was probably middle school when I had that. But like I literally remember one time my parents took my GameCube with me to my grandmother's house, and we set it up on a TV at her house, and I literally let me sit there and play Animal Crossing at my grandmother's house, and that was a fun memory.
That's a cool game. Actually, they do some really neat things with that game. I forgot. I keep forgetting that Last of Us did come out. I didn't play Last of Us till PS4. That was revolutionary on the PS3, and it was so good on that. That's old hardware, and it still runs well. For me, one of my favorite games of all time, because of the way it affected me, is a PS3 game, Heavy Rain. If there's any game I could erase my memory of it and play it again for the first time, it would be that game. Like the experience and how it sold it to you. I absolutely love that game. It would be that one. Anything else you guys want to close with? So as we kind of wrap up here, or any like final thoughts, or
I think out of every game, because you talked about a favorite out of all the ones that we had mentioned tonight, and mine is, just because I'm always doing Rare's dirty work. Sea of Thieves is hands down beats every other game I mentioned. I've played it. I think I checked my app. Clocking up. I'm over 300 hours at this point. It's going to join the 1,000-hour club, hands down. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Pretty much everyone I know on Twitter seemingly got an Xbox all at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. So I'm hoping to take people out for an honorary sale sometime pretty soon. I think that'd be a blast.
I really want to see Rare and Xbox hire this man, because Joe, I'm dead serious. Joey is such a good Xbox ambassador and Sea of Thieves ambassador.
true.
When you talk about like toxic fanboys, like he's the opposite of a toxic fanboy. He's a fanboy, but he's gonna do it in such a respectful way. It's gonna make you want to join in on the fun and get on that platform. So yeah,
Thank you, man.
I hope they do that, Joey. That would be
wonderful. Craig Duncan, if you're listening.
Then since Joey went, let's just close it out here by everybody picking their number one favorite title of everything that we covered so far. So Logic, why don't you go next?
I'm gonna pick a game that was on my list, but I didn't talk about. And despite the little slight bit of angst about Halo 5, the way I actually felt about the game, it's a weird life thing. So it was just, my co-host on my regular podcast that I do, we had been apart for a while and hadn't really gamed together a lot, and so Halo 5 was just that thing where with the online co-op, with the 4-player online co-op, we were all able to kind of get in and experience that story. And we're the type of people, we don't play with a lot of other people, because we're the type of people who, like, when we play a campaign game, we actually want to sit there, watch all of the cutscenes, absorb the story together, kind of like that old, Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of thing. Whereas, most other people you play with, they just want to button tab right through the cutscenes, and I'm like, no, we want to watch that. So that was just a great. We didn't play together all the way through from beginning to end, but a very large chunk of that story we just sat there and kind of played and watched the whole thing together. And so it was again, the sentimental pick, if I had to pick out of all of those that I had listed down, as my favorite.
That's an awesome. Matt?
Yeah, I think I want to go the same route of talk about one that I didn't cover too much, and I think I've said it on my other appearances on this podcast here, but Spider-Man 2018 is just, thank God that game exists. Spider-Man is a genre onto itself for me. I remember playing like the first Spider-Man for PlayStation 1 and being like a really little kid and just thinking to myself like, this is incredible. I can't believe that I'm swinging as Spider-Man. This is amazing. Like, and I absolutely adored that game. And then I went and saw the Sam Raimi movie, and like when that ending scene where he's swinging through Manhattan and it just like stops and he's on the American flag. Like I was thinking to myself in the theater, like I could have watched that for like the next 6 hours. I could have just sat there and watched him swing around. And the fact that the Sam Raimi suit is in the game is like, it's the best possible. I mean, like it's the best possible Spider-Man 2 of the PS2 era. I should have said that from a PS2 game. Honestly, that's one of my favorites for that one. Just the fact that that is in the game though is just so special to me. I love Spider-Man, and I just think that video games are my favorite way to absorb Spider-Man because what a great character that just can transcend all media. Really, I think
It's awesome. Methodical.
I didn't list it, but I want to take a minute to talk about Prey, not the first Prey, but Prey 2017 by Arcane Studios. It's now on Xbox Game Pass. If you're a subscriber, go check it out. The way I would describe it to people usually is like BioShock in space. It's kind of like System Shock's spiritual successor. It's an immersive game. The space station, almost everything is interactive. It feels lived in. It's one of those few games where I read almost every audio log and every email. The enemies are unique. You've got the mimics; they can turn into a coffee cup or a shoe or whatever. Just the weapons are fantastic. The music, again, Mick Gordon, one of the best. Did a lot of the music for that game, and it's so grossly on. Yeah, he did. I love that guy's music, and they that game is criminally underrated and underplayed. It's honestly, I would list it in my top 10 games from the PS4 X1 era. It's just so good. So get on Game Pass and check it out, or on PlayStation. Yeah, or if you got on PlayStation, you can find it for like $10 now. It's so good. So yeah, check it out, please.
I mean, on that topic, can we just get a round of applause and pour one out for Arcane Studios in general? Just those guys, so undersung, like just amazing game developers.
Actually, funny story about them. One of our shout out to Chad from Twitter, bless Chad. He had said he had never played an Arcane Studios game, and I kind of chuckled because I actually hadn't either. I need to. I'm sorry, I need to. And then I wanted to make sure I had never done it, so I went and I just Googled their library, and I got all the way through it. And I was like, "Yep, nope, haven't played any of these." And then I got all the way to the end, or the beginning, rather, I guess you'd say, right? And it was Dark Messiah, Might and Magic, and it was like I played it on PC years ago, and it's like one of my favorite games. I love it. It's one of those few games like few people have played it, and it was super innovative for the time. And so I had to laugh that I have played one of their games. I played that one.
Cool. Yeah, that man PS4, Xbox One generation had some bangers. I just constantly get pulled back to Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know what it is about that game. I know that it wasn't perfect. I know it had some hitbox issues and the human combat and melee wasn't perfect, but there was just something so immersive about the art design and the gameplay, and I just could feel, I felt like Aloy, like I could feel that struggle and the constant, like, who is this and who am I? And the fucking machines, man. Like I loved it. So that's always kind of the game that draws me in for just a really damned good game. And I am like PO Sony hyped for Forbidden West. So if like you can measure your hype scale on like a 1 to 10, I'm PO Sony hyped, which is way up here.
And I definitely respect what you were saying about like the design and some of the imperfections. Like I do, like in my inner monologue, like I want to take those discrepancies that I know other people have, right, and take them off the table because part of that story too, we go back to the dialogue that Joey and I had about like the persevering studios, like for that to be the pivot for Guerrilla Games, who Killzone was a fine enough set of games, but they just never hit different with everybody, and they were slogging and they were putting things out there and trying their damnedest, but like the miracle that is Horizon Zero Dawn and the story of that for that studio, and And in a world today where now Sony has put their foot down and said like, hey, you tier one studios, you guys aren't doing anything crazy from here on out. You guys are going to do like the principal IP type of stuff. I mean, I don't know that if Guerrilla Games hadn't done Horizon Zero Dawn, I don't know that they would be on that side of that line today.
I don't
Right.
think so. And the jump,
Yeah.
the jump from the quality in Killzone to what they delivered in Horizon, epic. I mean, that's a rare jump. Like Methodical, you were talking earlier. You mentioned one that had a massive jump between.
MGS 1 and 2.
Yes, same thing. If you look at Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2, like it's rare that studios have those leaps that are just astronomical in performance. And I feel like Guerrilla did that with Horizon. And for me personally, it was a near perfect experience. And I'm just super stoked.
And to
That's
think
been
they
wild.
could have had some growing pains and they didn't. Like Logic was saying, like Killzone was totally fine, but to go from a dark, gritty military future sci-fi thing to that, and not only a linear shooter to an open world with robot dinosaurs and this backstory and this lush landscape and this amazing protagonist. A protagonist, quite frankly, like one that we hadn't seen before. Just such a huge transition, and they deserve all the credit for that because that's not easy. They could have easily stumbled out of the gate, and they didn't. They just nailed it.
I have chills. I actually
Yeah.
have chills because I'm thinking about my first experience, and it didn't feel like an open world game, and it didn't feel like a grind, and it felt fast, and it just like that's how I felt the first time I played that game. That's what I live for in gaming, are those moments where you feel that way about it. So guys, thanks for being here. Episode 12 is pretty awesome.
Thank you. Congrats on 12 episodes.
Yeah,
I
thank
know,
you very
that's
much.
So awesome. Hopefully these guys will definitely be back. Maybe not together as one group, but I would love for all these gentlemen to come back. In the pin post, you will be able to find where you can follow these guys on Twitter below. Logic, do you have a current podcast that you're doing?
We do. So some co-hosts, the co-hosts and I, who go back a very long time, do a weekly podcast called the Enough to Keep Going podcast. Enough number 2 to keep going.
We'll make sure to put that in the pin post. If you'll send that to me on Twitter, it'll be the easiest for people. That way, go down in the pin post and under where you'll find his Twitter handle will be a link for you guys can follow everything that they're doing with their podcast too. And if you could please email your nearest Xbox ambassador and promote Joey, please, for Sea of Thieves CEO. So I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching episode 12. And me and the boys here are going to hang out for a little bit. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.